Hey everyone, today is September 18th. This is the SIG Testing weekly meeting. We've got meeting notes in the chat, and we're recording this. We'll put it on YouTube as soon as we can. So in the meeting notes, the first thing we've got is a presentation about this multi-repo code review tool. So Alfred, it's yours. The floor is yours. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I can't hear you either. Also, are we gonna, oh, we are recording.
How about now?
Yep.
Now you can hear me? Okay, so I've got a problem with my audio here, but I hope it'll be okay. Let me just see. Okay, now you can hear me? Okay, so can you see my screen?
Nope, you're not sharing it quite yet.
Share desktop. Okay, now you can see it?
Yep.
Okay, so I am going to show you a code review tool I have been working on. So it's called Reviewer, not very interesting name. And what's interesting about it is that it's a multi-repo, so it can handle multiple repos in the same review. Now, so it's multi-repo, it's hosting agnostic, so it can work with any hosting, GitHub, GitLab, on-prem, Bitbucket, whatever you need. And the reason it can do that is because it's actually using your local Git repositories. So it's not actually going to GitHub, GitLab, and all that. It's privacy preserving, so you can't see people's other private code. And source code never actually leaves your own machine, so it's really secure. You can view local changes in the tool. So as you're coding, you want to see it. You don't have to push to see the diff. And there's a multi-repo CLI tool, and it works with multiple auth providers, GitHub, Google, because it's based on Firebase, and Firebase just gives that for free. So, next slide. Yeah, no, skipped one. Yeah, so this is like the architecture. You can see here, this is Firestore, where it's storing just the metadata. And the files and the diff, the code and the diff are actually coming from a local server that's getting them from your local Git. And this is what you see in the web app. And over here, there's the CLI tool that's also interacting with Firestore and with your Git and with your file system. And there's a cloud service to do some other things that I can mention later. Now this is what it looks like. So you can see this is like the main panel. You have whatever you need to do. This is like your to-do list, things that are either waiting for you to review or to fix. This is incoming and outgoing and CC'd and draft that you've created, but you haven't actually started the review process. And submitted is the parts that you've already merged to master. This is actually a mock, so, but this is what's it's going to look like. It's not far from that right now. This is like basically the page for the diff, reviewers and whatnot, and the files and the discussion and the general description of the diff. This is the same screen with some more details. This is like the discussion area over here. And okay, and now you can ask me questions if you want, I guess. So the user flows are working on a feature, how do private repos work, and joining a diff after submission. So it's kind of like an unusual tool because of the architecture, and it allows these different and special flows in addition to the usual one. But we'll start with the usual one. So yeah, there's a lot of text here, but I'll just, it's for me to remember. So you create a local multi-repo workspace with all of your repos that you want to work with using a command line command. And then you start coding, and you can immediately see the code in the web UI because it's hosted locally. And when you're done coding, you start a review. This pushes the code to GitHub or GitLab or whatever is hosting. And then this shows up in the reviewer's needs attention. And they start the review. Their files are also served locally, so they need the same repo on their machine. That's why it's privacy preserving, because if one of the repos here was actually private, then the reviewer won't see them. And so they give approval only for the files they saw. Once everything is approved, then you can submit as the author, and a cloud service merges the changes for the repos it can, and code. Oh, sorry, I won't move the mouse because it's Code in private repos is merged by tools that are owned by the private repo owner because we don't have access. We don't even know they exist actually. Now, how do private repos work? Private repo CI checks the diff. If the diff is not breaking, the private repo CI can actually tell the system this diff is approved. And if it breaks, then as a private repo owner, I can join the diff, make the fixes, participate in the discussion, contribute changes to the public code, and everything is served locally, so nothing is really shared that is private. I think I already said that like 3 times. Okay, now you can actually join a diff after it's been submitted. So you can be like a late repo. Let's say your repo is a public repo or a private repo, and you want to join the diff, but it's already submitted. So you can actually add your changes to this multi-repo diff, even if after it's been submitted. You won't be able to change anything that's submitted, but you can add your changes. And this is to help other people see examples of what would need to be fixed. Let's say one of the repos you're dependent on made a breaking change, then all of the other repos make the fixes, and you can also add yours so that everyone can see everybody's fixes and get examples for how things should be fixed. That's the last slide. Now I'll show you the tool. So this is the real tool. These are the sections, and I can go into one of the diffs and see it, and I can hover over a name and say, oh, he's done, like he doesn't need it. I don't need to do anything. It's and see the changes. This is actually hosted locally, so this actually fetched it from my own machine now. Let's see another one. Yeah, this one. So this diff is actually here. So you can see test.sh is the file I have open here. And I'm going to see, oh, buildable and testable targets. That's what I added. And now I want to add this. It's very important. And refresh. And then I can see it here immediately. Yeah, that should mark also this part. Sorry about that. That's the basic idea. Yeah, I think I've said everything I wanted to say about this. Yeah, so that's the demo. Thank you. And if this is interesting for you and you think this might be useful, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you understand how to use this and how it can fit your workflow. And that's it.
The app itself, when it's running on the URL there, it's talking to this endpoint at firebaseapp.com. And then you have another daemon running locally, and the web application is talking both to the local daemon that's accessing your file system at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what is happening. So all these metadata is actually coming from Firestore. The list of files is coming from the local server, and the actual contents are also coming from the local server and the diff itself.
Are you proposing this to be a tool that's used in regular Kubernetes reviews? How do you see this fitting into the SIG testing?
Yeah, I'm proposing this as a tool for the community. If the community wants to use it, then that'd be great. I'm also working on integration with GitHub, so comments you would leave here would be synced to GitHub and back. So that would probably help with like a transition, if we're interested.
So I was looking at this as potentially a, interesting way to use this potentially instead of the PR dashboard. I don't know, if long-term we want to keep the PR dashboard. It doesn't seem like that is something we invest in very heavily. And this seems like it has a bunch of interesting features. I'd be interested to sort of see, how and whether we could integrate this with Prow. Like one thing that's pretty challenging right now is people being able to launch, PRs or whatever, launch tests without creating a PR. This potentially might help with that, where, maybe through some off song and dance, we could recognize that I am a member of the org, and I could sort of say, hey, here's my, I want you to run a Proud job that does the test that I want, but doesn't, actually create a pull request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it's pretty adaptable because it uses Firebase, which has like a zillion integrations with many languages. So once you connect to that, you can automate a lot of stuff.
If there was a way where a bunch of people, maybe like the GKE team doesn't want to have everybody install this app, would there be a way for, either the community to host something for the community, or maybe various companies in the community to sort of have a hosted version? Or is that sort of architecturally impossible? Or
Oh, no, it's possible. Like instead, you're talking about the local server?
right, yeah, where essentially, well, I think something that would be really interesting, like, because like the PR dashboard I find very useful because it tells me, which PRs I actually need my attention. But I don't know, but that sort of awkwardly lives with other code in GitHub. And especially if you're planning to continue moving this forward, I would, be interested in replacing that with this, especially if we could just hand people a URL to go to, and that already has, the PRs, the GitHub PRs that need their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Could like
Yeah.
keep a central cache or something. We keep a central like git re cache for purposes of other people using it.
What was that a question for me?
No, I was just suggesting you could keep a central repo, right? That this basically a central location where this could, like a shared desktop almost, but not really a desktop.
I can also see.
Yeah. So actually, like It could serve. You could have like two options to like avoid having it run locally. One is to have it run on a server and like bring in the files from the server just as it's running on my machine. It could equally run on any server, right? And have the local repositories just there on the server on the machine. That's just fine. And another option is to upload the files to Firebase, and then they're available there, and it doesn't need any Git repo anymore. Like once you push your like changes to review, then it also pushes to GitHub. I'm sorry, to Firebase, and then it's all the data is in Firebase. Yeah, so it makes sense. Like the private file is not particularly important to an open source project, I know.
It might be interesting to have another session or something where people that are interested can do a deep dive with you and create some onboarding documentation so that people who are interested can quickly get up to speed and contributing. Because I know that for II, this is something that could be really core to including more people and inclusively creating our infrastructure together that's not in one particular way or place. So I'm personally really excited and would love to see if you have some time for us to create some way for speeding up the onboarding process and creation of a community around reviewer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So first of all, let me just show you that there's a GitHub repo with all the code. So it's already open source. And there's like issues, like I'm pretty good about it. There's like issues that are marked with good first issue and prioritized and everything. And there's a project board with all this. So I'd be happy to work with anyone who wants to be part of this.
And so then, yeah, so essentially if someone is interested in trying this out right now, you would welcome their, attempt at trying to use this and are reaching out to you?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll reach out.
Totally. Like once the GitHub integration is in and it's sort of seamless to use this, I think that could be super useful.
What? Say again?
I think for like an actual adoption, the integration with GitHub that you were talking about with syncing comments and whatnot would probably be like a prereq for this to be used.
Yeah.
Extensively.
Yeah, I think so too. And actually, this is like a draft for an initial GitHub integration. Yeah, so I'm working on it. Yeah, so I agree. It's really important.
So another set of interesting people to bring this to and potentially find champions for the project would be contributor experience. They meet slightly earlier than this on Wednesday, but so that I think if you're up for doing another demo, I think that'd be a good set of people to demo this to. Yeah, and I don't know. A question I had, like, does anybody else have a feeling for the multi-repo? Like the multi-repo aspect of this seems pretty unique. And do you know if do you guys see that this would be there's demand for this with the people that you work with?
I know that we've had to use several scenarios where we're submitting to 3 or more repos within the Kubernetes community in order to get a particular feature across the line. I think that will continue. It would be really nice to have a place where this is this concise set and all of the tests have passed and all of the repos, and here's the joint discussion around that. I see immediate use for me and my team.
Ulfer, you might try reaching out to a gentleman named Sam Boyer. He's prominent in the Go community. He worked on a tool called DEP for Go dependency management. I can introduce the two of you. But DEP and then Matt, his name's escaping me, but Glide before it. They both work with multiple SCM providers and basically cache code across multiple SCM types and repositories, and it may be a way to provide the local, a different way to provide the local viewport into the data in a way that also could work remotely, so that you're, like you said, you're agnostic because you've got the bidirectional servers working, but maybe you could actually clone that code locally as well, and then work on a cache where you don't care about the repo type.
Yeah, right. And actually, the way it's designed, I can work with other kinds. Are you talking about like not Git, like different kinds of like Bitbucket?
I am. So I am. I'm talking about, instead of having a server running locally so this thing can talk to it, maybe it would know how to talk to multiple different types of SCMs. I'm just trying to think of how to eliminate that need.
We've been looking at ways of using Node JavaScript directly to reach out and clone the repos inside the cache, so that we can have totally web-based UI stuff interacting with our repos. So another thought.
I haven't looked at this at all, Hippie, but in the latest Go release, there was something to do with JavaScript engine. So maybe that's at all relevant. I don't know. It was surprising to me.
That sounds interesting. I'll definitely take a look.
I guess jumping back to one point, do we, as I understood it, like at some point, all the staging repos, like they're obviously basically a mono repo right now with the way that they're synced out of KK, but in the future, the thought was the fewer head-to-head dependencies that exist between repos, the better, right? Whereas this tool is more championing the mono repo approach and trying to help developers that have those dependencies. Does that work with the future direction there? Eric, do you have any opinions on that?
Sorry, say that again. Is the future thing about checking out?
Like the tool is super useful if you'd like a mono repo or something that looks like a mono repo but is implemented with multiple separate repos. And it helps developers when they have dependencies between head of different branches. But as my understanding was, like, that's not the goal with the Kubernetes repos. And like, even though the staging repos today are basically a mono repo because they're synced out of KK, the future would like that not to be the case. And so this tool, I don't know, it seems like there's a push to have more separation and not have repos that depend on each other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely a, I don't know that everybody, I mean, that's certainly my opinion that, I think it's better to, if you have dependency, if like thing A and B has dependencies, to either put them in the same repo or else, have some sort of way of upgrading both of them asynchronously, such that like they don't need to merge together. I don't think that opinion is like universally held. I think there have been some threads in Contribex, where people, everything at Kubernetes, right? You can find probably whatever opinion.
Right.
And
I guess the biggest thing is like that seems to go against, like, I don't know. Do we have any opinions for Prow with that? Like, are we going, like, do we think we'll support testing multiple pull requests together from multiple repos, just if that's the need from the community?
I mean, I would suspect we would try and figure out, a way to avoid that, just because it would make Prow way more complicated.
Right.
It sort of depends on if, this is, it still could be helpful, right? Like if I have A and B and they are in separate repos and I am, making a PR that still is backwards compatible, it still might be useful to review them together, even if they are merged independently. But yeah, I don't think that, having this tool would be the only thing, necessary to convince us that making Prow, merge a 10 repo Uber PR would be a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Reviewing in tandem seems super useful. I just wonder, getting tests. I think maybe it was a hippie saying like it would be nice for them when they're landing changes across PRs to have that test that says everything works together. And I'm just not sure we have any of the info to support that right now.
But on the other hand, I do think that, especially with some of the more satellite repositories, they might have different opinions, right? Like that sort of, I think that'll probably be the case for, core KK, but maybe an affiliated repo might be interested in this tool and, has a different policy.
Totally. Cool. So we have about 1 minute left.
Yeah.
So I think, Andrew, the demo that you were hoping to provide probably next week.
Yeah,
I'll look. Like,
who's taking notes?
I believe that's Ofer writing.
Okay. I'll try to get first on the list next week. If whoever creates the next week, if they could just move me up there so that.
Right.
I think I might also, I kind of feel like you're frequently getting, No,
it happens very frequently. I just
downgraded, so I might, also take it upon yourself to like check in before the meeting and make sure you're first, because it's kind of, I don't think.
I'm not going to bump somebody, though. That's the thing. Like,
well, I don't think you're bumping somebody. I think it's more just, the errors of people hitting enter and, yeah.
Yeah, because
the intention should definitely be for next week for you to be first.
Right.
So if you are not first, someone has bumped you, and I feel like you should feel totally empowered to correct that via copy paste.
Right. I agree with Eric. I think this was just a matter of like, people adding new things, just go up to the top and they add them there. Cool. So we'll bump those for next week. Thanks everyone for coming.
That was awesome. Looking forward to it.